help honor Ken Deans and his phenomenal 46 years of combined federal service, 30 of which were in the military and 16 as a federal civilian.
Hello?
Ken started his service in Army basic training and then advanced infantry training, and then subsequently went to the Vietnam War. Ken, first and foremost, thank you for your service. That's admirable. I know that was a terrible time, hard time, but thank you for your service. We know you made a lot of sacrifices. Ken rose through the ranks of the enlisted field and eventually culminated in a promotion to Chief Warrant Officer 4. And I'm here to tell you, for those who've been in the military, when you hear somebody is a CWO4, that's a big deal, okay? I'll tell a little sea story of my own. When I was an ensign, Butterball, World War I in the Navy, if I walked into our boardroom and I saw a CWO4, I quaked in my shoes. I was in the presence of God. I mean, CWO4s, they know it. They're the backbone, and make all these wonderful things happen. In preparing for this speech, I know Ken pretty well, at least for the last 6 years or so. But, I wanted to find out a bit more about Ken. So I talked to several people and said, tell me about Ken. The one theme that I heard throughout was the word legend. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is Ken Deans as a legend. Now, what I will do is defer to Lieutenant General Stevenson to talk about Ken's military legendary career. He'll follow me here shortly. I'll talk about his time here at DLA, specifically with the Enterprise Business Standards Office. I first met Ken in 2010, and there he was a senior civilian on the Army Headquarters G4 staff, and he had a couple of roles there that had contact with us, and he was a supply process review committee representative, and also became the pipeline measurement process review committee representative on behalf of the Army to our office. And one of the things that I remember about Ken, and this is just shows you the kind of guy he is, he had so much enthusiasm. Okay, he knew his job, he was organized, he was on top of the Army, answering the mail, getting things done. And we couldn't have asked for a greater PR man than Ken when it came to demos. He loved it, he was passionate about it, and he says it's the greatest thing coming, the warfighter's gonna love it, we've got to stay committed and make it happen. Well, hopefully, Ken, we've done that, and with your help, I know we are making great progress in that area. So, with that as a stepping stone, so how did Ken end up in our office? Well, in 2011, my predecessor, DC Pip, had a vacancy. And so we're trying to figure out, what kinds of people do we want to try to, cast a net out to and see if they're interested in the job. And I immediately told DC, I said, let's go talk to the Army and Ken. Ken would be great. He's driven, he's passionate, he'd be perfect for this office. And so sure enough, came through the hiring process, and Ken came in the door in December of 2011. And it was awesome. So when I think of Ken, I've got several descriptors that come to my mind. First and foremost, he is a quiet, consummate professional. He is all about, first and foremost, service to the warfighter. That's what it's all about, that's what we're all here for, and Ken epitomized that. He's also about service to his organization, service to his peers and colleagues, and compassion to his friends. No matter what the task is that Ken gets, he puts his heart and soul into it. And I respect that. It made my life much easier as your supervisor, obviously, because I could rely on Ken. Anything I gave him, no problem, will do. Second, Ken is forward-leaning. When Ken first entered military service, it was what folks of my generation refer to as the pencil and paper era. Okay, the technological revolution that we've seen hadn't started yet. Okay, there's no such thing as the personal computer, the smartphone, Microsoft, email, instant messaging. That stuff just didn't exist. It wasn't in the lexicon, and I would say it's not even just, it wasn't a figment of our imagination. It was beyond being a figment of our imagination to where the technology revolution would take us. But you know what? Through all of that, Ken never feared that. As a matter of fact, he embraced it. And that became the cornerstone of his career, was to embrace technology and bring that capability to the warfighter. Third, Ken is intelligent and passionate. He's developed all kinds of tools throughout his career to help improve productivity, work processes, and in the end, support the warfighter. Whether it be tracking supply unit performance at an Army supply support activity to make sure they're picking up all their material to get into the hands of the warfighter, be it metrics for tracking discrepancy deficiency reporting, and making sure that folks are looking at those metrics and saying, are there systemic issues that we can solve through training or systems changes, getting into priority abuse for our supply transactions, and making sure that the force activity designators for the units are correct so that they're using the supply system and it's there to be responsive for those that truly needed it. And most recently, the culmination of all, Ken developed and rolled out into production just last week, August 30th, the Project Code Management System, which was a complete automation of what was a very manual process in our office as well as Joint Chiefs of Staff. And Ken put his heart into it, and it's great. I've heard nothing but rave reviews so far, and I expect no less. Thank you, Ken. Fourth, Ken is highly dedicated. So much so that he delayed his retirement to make sure that PCMS rolled out into production. I kid you not. I thought he was going to retire in the spring, then it was early summer, and then it was late summer. He says, Heidi, I promise you, I am not going until PCMS is done. And he was true to his word, and he got it. Last year, last week it happened. Fifth, he's hardworking. For those of you that know me well, I'm a workaholic, okay? I don't have kids, and my husband's a workaholic. So, there's nothing better than to just do work at work. Well, in the mornings, when I would come in, I usually would try to come in before everybody else would come in, so I could get some work done. Well, guess who was in the office before me? Ken. Okay, in the evenings, I would stay late until everybody would leave. Well, guess what? I do a shout out in the room. I say, anybody here? There's Ken. Still at his desk plugging away. Yeah, he was just so dedicated to his job, and he wanted to get everything right, and he put the effort in to make it happen. Sixth, he's resilient. How's that for a DLA? Using the DLA core values, resiliency. Do I get a plug for that, sir? As I said earlier, Ken did not fear the technological revolution that occurred over his career. Rather, he embraced it. He made it work for him. So, when it came to our office, Enterprise Business Standards Office, he took over a fledgling pipeline measurement process review committee. From me, as a matter of fact. I had gotten it started. The committee hadn't met in over 10 years. The tool that the committee was responsible for, called the Logistics Metrics and Analysis Reporting System, hadn't had any maintenance done to it in 10 years. So codes were out of date, reporting activities were out of date, and capabilities were out of date. A lot of things had changed in 10 years under the logistics supply chain. So Ken came in, took charge of that. He went and got all the down changes in place to get the system up to date so it's reporting accurate data. He did all kinds of automation, and then he went and started to do analysis on the data. One of the primary outputs for this committee is logistics response time. And he not only just let the system compute it, but what he would start to do is go to people and say, hey, let's turn this into some actionable information. And so I know Paul Blackwell from OSD remembers at the last couple process review committees, Ken would get up there and talk about the data, what he was seeing, the trends. And then we could have some actual real dialogues of what can we do to improve. So the net result of that is in the 6 years that he had that committee, LRT was reduced by 50%. That's huge. 15 days down to 7. I mean, that's just Herculean. Great job, Ken. 7th, Ken is caring and compassionate. You know, when someone was having a bad day, hard day at work, maybe had health issues, wasn't feeling well, or just was sad, I can promise you, Ken was there to give you a hug, put a smile on your face, and say, hey, it's not so bad. You know, things are okay. He was always there to help you get back on your feet and look at the bright side of things. Ken, I'll miss sharing Tom Clancy and Clive Cussler stories with you. Yeah, I think I read about 40 books during a couple of years that you and I were talking about those things. I'll miss hearing about your Rolls-Royce adventures and your car shows, your biking expeditions. Just the only thing I ask, if you want another 100-mile bike, take your son with you. And his hobby and love of collecting guitars. You know, every time I turned around, Ken say, oh, I got a guitar. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that, sorry.
My wife says, why do you need another guitar? You can't play any of them you got.
Well, I figured you were getting ready.
You know.
Well, see, I was looking at the optimistic side of this one, and he's getting ready for retirement. Okay, so that's what he's gonna do. Learn to play the guitar. 8, Ken is the epitome of a gentleman. For those of you that know Ken, do you agree? I mean, absolute gentleman. You can't find one finer than that. He is always there to escort you somewhere. I can tell you personally, when, especially in the wintertime when it was dark, out early, and I was running late, he would escort me to the door. And then he would watch to make sure I got to my car safe and sound. I mean, he didn't have to do it. I didn't ask him to do it. He did it out of the kindness of his heart. You know, a true gentleman. 9th, I have only 2 more. 9th, he is giving and charitable. I remember a couple years ago, Ken volunteered to be a combined federal campaign key worker. He also happened to volunteer in a year that J6 was the lead for the National Capital Region for DLA. And as Mr. Foster knows, and I know Ken now knows, that's a lot of work. But you know what? Ken just rolled his sleeves up, got in there, and got it done. Yeah, he made sure that all the employees had the information they need so they could make informed decisions about any contributions they were interested in doing. He participated in various fund drive collections.
The DLA car show we ever had.
And you took the words right out of my mouth, Ken. And anybody who's familiar with the car show, that's the man who came up with that idea, Ken. Just a brilliant idea, and just all kinds of people came out with their cars, and it was just great. So, very, very charitable. Lastly, Ken exhibits great pride in his work, his appearance, his demeanor, and in the accomplishments of his family. We're always hearing about Wanda's accomplishments as a contracting officer representative and all the good work and the money that you're saving for the Department of Defense. My hat's off to you. I had no desire to be, I was a Corps, never again. And then he talks about his son, Ken Jr. in the back. Ken just recently got promoted to be a CEO and president of a company down in South Carolina. Totally awesome. There is no doubt that Ken's attributes have been passed on to his son. And his son is just phenomenal. So, in summary, when I look back at Ken's impact on the EBSO mission in my office, the team, the Delms team, myself, and all those that he has touched over the recent years, I can definitely affirm to you, he is a legend, okay? He is one. He'll be remembered. He's left an impact, very positive. So, Wanda, Ken Jr., it is my great honor to return your husband, your father, back to you full-time. I wish you all the best as you embark on your new journeys, where I have no doubt the legend will continue. Thank you.
It is my honor to introduce to you our guest speaker, Lieutenant General Stevenson, United States Army, retired.
thanks to all of you for coming out today. Ken Deans, retiring from federal service after 46 and a half years of service to the nation. He'll be officially retired next week. Ken entered the Army in June of 1970. The #1 song in the nation that week was a Beatles tune called The Long and Winding Road. How prophetic that turned out to be. As Heidi mentioned, Ken started out with a pencil with an eraser on the end of it. And look at where we are today, with more automated logistics capabilities than we know what to do with. And Ken had a hand in helping to make most of them happen along the way. When he entered the Army in 1970 as a unit supply specialist in West 76 Yankee, I was starting my freshman year in college. Upon completion of his basic and AIT, Advanced Individual Training, as Heidi mentioned, he was assigned to Vietnam, where he served with the 21st Signal Group on the east coast of South Vietnam until the latter part of 1971, after which he was reassigned to an organization called CONARC, the Continental Army of the United States, I think it was, the predecessor of what we know today as U.S. Army TRADOC, at Fort Monroe, Virginia. He stayed there from 71 to 74. In fact, I think it was designated TRADOC while Ken was still there. He was then assigned to D Company, 703rd Maintenance Battalion, 3rd Infantry Division in Schweinfurt, Germany, Rocket of Army. I've had 2 tours with 3rd ID, so I know a little bit about that place. He served there in the 3rd ID from 74 to 77, and upon his return to the United States, he was assigned to HHC 326th Engineer Battalion, 101st Air Assault Division, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Screaming Eagles. And he served there from 77 to 80. All this time still as an enlisted man. Ken left the military in 1980 to pursue his civilian education, but returned to active duty in 1983 with the Tennessee Army National Guard. His Guard assignments included the 1155th Transportation Company and the Tennessee Military Academy. But then he left his active Guard position in 1988 after being selected and appointed by the Secretary of the Army to attend the Warrant Officer Basic Course and Technical Phase, and graduated as a 920 Bravo Supply Systems Technician. As a Warrant Officer 1, his first assignment was to the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, California. Those of you who have been to Fort Irwin know that it's not necessarily the nicest assignment. But he ended up, and he didn't know it at the time, but he ended up that he would stay there for the next 5 years, much to Wanda's delight. He was assigned to the D Company initially of the 177th Forward Support Battalion, and then later to the HHC of the NTC Support Battalion, in both places as an SSA, a Supply Support Activity Accountable Officer. He just kept getting deferred by the commanders that were assigned there, even though at one time he had an assignment to the embassy in Thailand, where Ken and his wife were very excited about going to. But unfortunately, he was too good at his job and was asked to stay at the NTC. Major General Wes Clark, you may have heard that name. He ran for president a few years ago. Actually, he ran for the nomination to become the president. He was then Major General, the commander at Fort Irwin, California. Didn't want him to leave, and then his successor, Major General Bill Carter, who would come into Ken's life later on again, didn't want him to leave. And then when he finally was able to escape in 1993, he had orders for Vicenza, Italy, another nice place. But that old guy, General Carter, who by then had been reassigned to the 1st Armored Division in West Germany, had Ken deferred from going to Vicenza and took him with him into the 1st Armored Division. But as difficult as an assignment as it was at the NTC, Ken would probably tell you that it was the greatest possible training environment for a young 920 Bravo that the Army could have given him. Once back in Germany, he would spend the next 9 years of his career in Germany. First with the 1st Armored Division Support Command Material Management Center in Bad Kreuznach until the year 2000, and then with the 19th Material Management Center Corps Support Command in Wiesbaden, Germany from 2000 to 2002. A year of those 9 years he spent in Bosnia due to yet another general that Ken had met at the NTC, Brigadier General Pat O'Neill, who, while Ken was there, was the opposing forces commander, but ended up also in the 1st Armored Division. During his time in Germany, Ken oversaw repair parts supply operations in the SSAs of the 1st Armored Division, DISCOM. There are 6 of them at the time. And while doing that, he also developed and implemented in 3 months the Integrated Maintenance Supply Program, IMSP, nicknamed Iron Star, which saved the Army $30,000 in man-hours in the first year it was implemented. The creation of the IMSP provided updated status of repair parts requirements by fleet for the entire division in just 45 minutes at the end of each workday, complete in a Word document that was be forwarded out to the division's leaders. Ken shared this idea throughout the Army, and it was installed in other divisions at Fort Riley and Fort Hood, providing a cost savings of over $1 million across the Army the first year it was used. And as a result, Ken was awarded the U.S. Army Europe Suggester of the Year Award by USER Commanding General Montgomery Meigs for implementation of the IMSP, and would eventually be awarded $4,200 by the Army for that cost savings suggestion. I was in Germany at the time Ken was doing all this. I was in 3rd ID, Rock of the Marne. We were all envious of the tool Ken had created and wished we had something like that to be able to help us manage maintenance in the division. But I would tell you this is a perfect example of the contribution that warrant officers make to the Army. Those of you who know me know that I'm an ordnance officer and have always had a special place in my heart for warrant officers. We in the Ordnance Corps could not operate without them, and I know it's the same way in the Quartermaster Corps, of which Ken is a part. Warrant officers are our Google. They know everything. Whenever there's a really tough technical challenge, the really smart officers look for their warrant officers. Ken's next assignment after Germany was to be with the headquarters Army Materiel Command, right here in Virginia. In fact, starting out just down on Eisenhower Avenue and ending up not very far from here, Fort Belvoir. He concluded his assignment at the Army Materiel Command in 2003. I was the Army Operations Officer at the time, the G3. And Ken retired having worked in my shop there in the headquarters with 30 years active duty, and as Heidi said, was a chief warrant officer for. I got to see when he was working for me what a top-notch, first-class, talented chief warrant officer he was. And upon retirement from the Army, we talked him into sticking around, where he took a position as a Department of Army civilian there in the G3 with us as a logistics management specialist. And he served in that capacity from 2003 to 2008, at which time he accepted a position at Headquarters Department of the Army G4, where I was, and served there until December of 11, and you know the rest of the story, having listened to what Heidi had to say. Ken's been married for 46 years to his wife, Wanda. I think that deserves a round of applause. And they have a son, who you've heard from, standing in the back there, Kenneth Jr., and wife Michelle, and one granddaughter, Ashley, who's just started her sophomore year at Virginia Tech. You're getting old there, Ken. Ken's son, as Heidi mentioned, recently accepted a position as president and CEO of Health Services South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina. And I know his mom and dad are very proud. And I know he got there by having great parents in Ken and Wanda. 46 years of service to nation. Wanda and Ken facing a long and winding road together. We are all in their debt.
Ladies and gentlemen, presentations will now be made to the retiree. Ms. Dowreed is now presenting Mr. Deans with our National Ensign, which was flown over both the United States Capitol as well as the DLA headquarters in honor of Ken Deans.
When I
saw this flag, I didn't know it was so big.
Now presenting to Mr. Deans the gold letter from the Director of the Defense Logistics Agency. Dear Mr. Deans, it is an honor for me to extend my heartiest congratulations on your retirement from federal service after a remarkable 46-year career. Throughout your career, you have made significant contributions to agency-wide operations and Department of Defense readiness. Beginning your career as a supply specialist in the United States Army, you served our country in the Vietnam War. After 30 years of honorable service, you retired as a Chief Warrant Officer 4. You continued your service as a civilian project officer and advisor for the Army Deputy Chief of the Staff, providing expertise on logistics, supply, and distribution policy. Upon your arrival at the Defense Logistics Agency, you gained the respect and admiration across DLA as the principal member of the Enterprise Business Standards Office, serving as the key expert for the business rules, governance, and standards of the Logistics Metrics Analysis Reporting System. As you begin this new phase in your life, you may take pride in the knowledge that you have earned many times over the respect and admiration of everyone who has had the joy of knowing and working with you. You will be missed by your supervisors, peers, and many friends at DLA. On behalf of everyone at the agency, I thank you for your loyalty and devoted support of the Department of Defense mission. Retirement is not an ending, but a new beginning. As you begin your well-deserved retirement, take with you my best wishes for the future. Sincerely, Darrell K. Williams, Lieutenant General, United States Army. The Defense Logistics Agency's Superior Civilian Service Award is presented to Mr. Kenneth R. Deans, Sr. Mr. Deans distinguished himself with exceptionally superior service as a supply systems analyst for the Enterprise Business Standards Office from December 2011 through September 2017. During this period, Mr. Deans matured a dormant Logistics Response Time, or LRT, committee into a cohesive body and implemented a systemic means for tracking reparables LRT performance with a focus towards providing improved warfighter support. LRT is now 8 days, representing a 7-day reduction since 2011. He also fielded a new tool that automates Joint Chiefs of Staff Management project codes, yielding savings of 540 man-hours annually and improving the data quality of project code information. Mr. Dean's distinctive accomplishments reflect great credit upon himself, the Department of Logistics Agency, and the Department. Ms. Davreed is now presenting Mr. Deans with a framed picture of the Defense Logistics Agency headquarters. Amongst the many inscriptions listed thereon, the plaque reads, Kenneth R. Deans, DLA Information Operations, December 2011 to September 2017. Thank you for your wisdom, leadership, and friendship.
And I'll forego reading all the comments on the picture.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Foster, the Deputy Chief Information Officer for DLA Information Operations, will now present Mr. Deans with a coin from Ms. Kathy Cutler, Director, DLA Information Operations, Chief Information Officer.
And one of the things that we say inside of J6 is we win or lose as a team. And we emphasize that. Yet we have individuals on the team who just do an exceptional job. I want to recognize Ken, not so much, but all the things that you've heard speak to what an exceptional individual he is, what an outstanding military career he had, how many contributions he's made to DLA. But I want to recognize him because what a great teammate he is. This is a gentleman who's got your back. As Heidi said, it doesn't matter what you ask him to do, it doesn't matter how bad it is, you call on Ken, he's there for you. He was there not only for us inside of the room here, he was there for soldiers, sailors, airmen and women, Marines, Coast Guard, who are out there, the folks that we all are here to support. So on behalf of Ms. Cutler and Mr. Tinston, I want to thank you for being such a great team member and for all the folks here at DLA who work with you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Wanda Dean will now be presented with a certificate of appreciation from the Director, DLA Information Operations, Chief Information Officer. Certificate of Appreciation to Ms. Wanda J. Deans in recognition of the many years of support you provided your husband Kenneth during his federal career. We appreciate your generosity and self-sacrifice during these years and would like to express our admiration for the significant contribution you made towards your spouse's career. Given this 16th day of September 2017, signed Kathy Cutler, Director, DLA Information Operations, Chief Information Officer. Ms. Davery is now presenting Mr. Deans with a certificate of retirement. This certificate is presented to Kenneth Deans Sr. upon your retirement from the government of the United States of America following 16 years of loyal service. Dated September 16, 2017, signed Kathy Cutler, Director, DLA Information Operations, Chief Information Officer. And Ms. Davery is now presenting Mr. Deans with a plaque commemorating his service and retirement. Presented to Kenneth Deans Sr. on behalf of the Defense Logistics Agency and the Government of the United States of America, we congratulate you on 16 years of dedicated federal service and wish you well in your retirement.